Good evening, everybody. Come on in, come on in. Sorry for being late. I'm never late. Come on in, come on in. Hey, y'all. Good evening. What's up, roommates? What's up? Hey, y'all. We got some good stuff in store. Come on in, come on in. Say hey as you're coming in. Hey, Brown Fox, love you. Hey, Danny, I missed you. Hey, brother, love you. Come on in, guys. Good evening, happy Tuesday. I feel like we back on track, y'all. I feel like we back on track. We've been on Wednesdays for a couple of weeks. Hey, Vanna, thank you for joining. Good to see you. We've been on Wednesdays for the last few weeks. We had a guest week before last, and then last week we had to let that election thing play on out. And I was not going to get in the way of that in no shape, form, or fashion. So we back on Tuesdays. I'm actually going to poll you all to see. Hey, Chantel. Missed you, girl. Welcome. Hey, Sharon. Happy belated birthday. Yeah, so I said I was going to send you all a poll. But for those of you who are watching now, think about if you all want to remain on Tuesday evenings or if you all want to go to Wednesdays. Think about it. I'm going to put a poll up. And remember, we are roommates, so if I'm moving things around, I know that it affects you all. So as roommates, I have to be courteous and not just move things around without asking and polling on what's going to work best for all of us, because your support means the absolute world to me. So come on in, come on in. Whew, I was late today, y'all. And in any capacity that the enemy can try to step in, you best believe he on this job. And that's why we got to stay on eyes. Because, baby, it is really real out here, okay? I am super excited about tonight simply because, you know, the topics that come to us every week, believe it or not, I get some sort of feedback from my roommates. So whether you all are sending me a DM or I speak to you in person, hey Tasha, Faith, thank you for joining. Whether I get a DM, whether I see you guys in person, whatever the circumstances may be, I am literally keeping you all at the forefront as I'm making moves and bringing things forth. So tonight's topic is we're still in the awareness of Childhood Mental Health Awareness Month within the month of November. But we will have, you know, different topics and stuff. So tonight's topic is, I don't think any of the topics are so easy to talk about, but some topics are more challenging to talk about than others. And I think I said last week that when we're talking about children and bringing children into the equation, as it relates to, you know, just talking about them and how children may feel and things like that, we really just want to be extremely careful because I don't want to offend anybody, especially when we're talking about our babies. Hey, sister, I'm glad you caught us live. Thank you for joining. Hey, Samantha. So yeah, we are going to jump right on in because when I tell you all, I have a full agenda. I have a full agenda. So, um, again, so tonight's topic, I am going to remind you all, is co-parenting through conflict. Now, we're not just going to talk about co-parenting through conflict. We're going to talk about co-parenting in general, right? But the conflict part is where we will highlight, simply because when it comes to conflict and when children are involved, we have to remain reminded that our children are affected by anything that we do, and quite frankly, anything that we don't do, especially if it is going to vicariously affect them. So I want us to keep that in mind. But first, roommates, you guys already know. Let's get some biblical reference, and then I'll give you guys our message of the day, which is on my shirt. 1 Timothy 5:8 reminds us that anyone that does not provide for his relatives, especially his children and members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And what this is telling us, roommates, is, in layman terms, is that anyone who knowingly neglects his or her children are not in good faith with God. Okay? And today's message is furthered by my shirt, and it's a little light today, so I'll read it for you all. And my shirt reads, "Playing in a child's face, knowing they are God's favorite, is crazy. It's absurd." It is literally the mind-blowing emoji, because we have to be extremely careful about how we handle God's gifts. And children are just that. They are gifts from the Lord. And I am thankful for the ones that are biologically mine, and the ones that over the years I've been able to call my own, because I treat them as such and they treat me as such. So before we get started, I do want to give a disclaimer. I want us to be mindful that not all co-parenting situations are difficult, and not all co-parenting relationships exist in conflict. And I think I said that in other terms a moment ago. So again, this show isn't just about just conflict, right? But we are going to work through some of the things. I'm going to need for you guys to chime in. I'm going to need you to drop your gems in the chat. I will be toggling between Facebook and Instagram, so just bear with me, because I do want to hear what everyone has to say, because this is a topic that some of my roommates has asked for me to bring forth. So let's jump on in. Let's define co-parenting. Come on, for roommates. I need y'all. Y'all know when I get to talking about definitions, I be wanting y'all input, right? So let's define co-parenting. I'd like to give you guys a chance, but y'all know I'd be a little anxious, okay? So co-parenting is when parents share the duties and responsibilities of raising a child or children. And this term is used when parents are separated or not in a relationship. True and sincere co-parenting involves two individuals coming together in a shared effort to raise their children despite living or being apart from one another. And I know roommates, it can be so difficult sometimes trying to coexist with our co-parent, but it doesn't really honestly have to be that way. Tonight, we're going to look at 3 types of co-parenting styles and or models. And at any time, you guys can jump in and I'll go to the chat. The first style of or model of co-parenting is something called parallel parenting. Now, you can take a moment. Hey, Dee. Hey, Talisa. You are first. Welcome. I want to, if you can think about parallel parking, right? And then let's take the parking out and replace that with parenting. So parallel parenting is a parenting plan that may include arrangements such as only one parent attending the event of a child, activities of a child. The parents alternate events and appearances or assign certain areas such as school, sports, or medical to a particular parent. And each parent has a set of rules that is different in each household. So though parallel parenting may not be an ideal choice for every single family, because what it does is that parents generally, it shows that the parents are generally struggling in some sort of conflict, right? Because it's like, you're doing this and I'm doing this and we're doing it at the same time. But because there is no cohesiveness, we stay apart. And I'm sure we're doing our best to make sure that we have as much impact as possible on the child or the children involved. However, parallel parenting, it shows the struggle. It shows the conflict in the co-parenting relationship. And it may be a best way to ensure that the children can maintain a relationship with both of the parents. And it also allows the parents to disengage from each other while remaining fully engaged with their children. So, hey brother, thank you for joining. So guys, though parallel parenting is a model, and it can and does work for some people and some families, it really does have its disadvantages. And I'm going to list some disadvantages to parallel parenting. But based on the definition, can you guys jump in really quickly and tell me, what do you believe some of those disadvantages can be to parallel parenting? So the daddy is over here doing one thing and the mama is over here doing another. And they never, ever quite meet in the middle to ensure that what they're doing in parenting is providing a cohesive covering for their children, right? It actually, and I'm probably about to give you guys one of the disadvantages without even looking at my list of disadvantages, because I just know it to be true. It actually causes confusion to your child or to your children that's involved, right? I'm starting to see some of your comments. So let me see. And so we have to be extremely careful when it comes to keeping things separated, because it's only one child or a set of children that are essentially going to be impacted by this parallel parenting, right? So Brown Fox said on Instagram, probably as cohesively as I said it, and so did Miss Tasha 29, my fave. They both said that the child becomes confused. And that's true, right? So let's talk about some of the disadvantages of parallel parenting. So parallel parenting, one of the disadvantages is limited collaboration. We all know the term teamwork makes the dream work. And if we can come together for anything or anybody, it should be for the sake of our children, right? Because remember, at some point, mostly 9 times out of 10, when a child is born, at some juncture in the baby making process, the parents loved each other or had love for each other, and never ever thought that they would be in this co-parenting situation, right? I know I never entered into a parenting situation where I thought I wouldn't be with this person, or I thought even if I wouldn't be with this person, I didn't think that it would be so bad that we wouldn't be able to come together to collaborate for the sake of the children, right? So it causes limited collaboration, and then what that does is limit our ability to work together on important decisions and parenting strategies. You know, another thing it does is it gives the child an opportunity to split the parent, because remember, the kid, the child is the sponge. The kid knows everything, whether it's spoken or unspoken, right? So it's extremely important that the child know that it's one sound, one band, even if you're not together. But when parallel parking is, look at me talking about parking, parallel parenting is evident, the child know that they can play the sides against the middle, because they have the advantage, because the disadvantage is that we don't have the opportunity to collaborate on the sake of the child or the sake of the children. Parallel parenting causes a lack of flexibility. And what happens is that the parenting becomes less flexible because you're dealing with unexpected situations and changes. It's probably so much lack of communication that how can we actually come up with a plan where we're flexible with one another so that it's beneficial for our children, right? So it is definitely a lack of flexibility. But you know what it does that is probably one of the biggest disadvantages and most harmful is that it leaves our children feeling isolated. Right? And what happened in isolation when a child, it's really when a child is trying to figure out, first of all, they're in a state of confusion, probably thinking, wow, they probably not even together, right? Even if they don't say it. But then they're trying to figure out, like, y'all the parents in this. Wow, am I having to figure out in this confusion where to go, how to move, how to speak up, which set of house rules to follow, right? So that confusion also leads to isolation, because our children becomes troubled in navigating the different sets of rules, the different sets of expectations between the two households, between the two parents. So it leads to confusion and isolation. Our children feel pressured to take sides. And I want to be very careful about, you know, some of the stuff I share. But I can tell you, you know, I've witnessed, you know, my children being split, trying to figure out, you know, if they got to take sides. And you don't ever want to put your children in a situation where they feel like they have to pick or choose a side, because both mom and dad should be equally as important. The things that they set forth, the rules that they make, the decisions that they make on the behalf of you. It should not be a parenting situation where a kid is ever stuck in between choosing, am I going to follow this rule or that rule? Because even if it's two sets of rules, it should still be one understanding that we are your parents, we have your best interests at heart, and that there is nothing that is so conflictual between me and me and your mom, or me and your dad, that I want you feeling like you have to choose a side. Never make your children choose a side, right? Because it furthers, it is just so uneasy, right? And I have some people saying, yes, they do. They are confused. And yes, it is so, it's so disheartening, guys. We have to be the bigger people. We are the parents. We are the leaders. We are the captains. We have to steer the boat. Hey, brother, Poppy George, that's my baby there. I love you. Hey, Yvette, I appreciate you always and forever. All right, a couple more disadvantages, then we're going to move on to a different co-parenting style. What happens also is that when a child, right, a child lives with the custodial parent, that's the person that has the full custody of them, right? Even though it's your child, you share them, but the custodial parent is the parent that the kid spends most of their time with, right? So that's whether there's courts involved or not, it's always going to be a custodial parent unless the agreement is 50-50. Now, when it's 50-50, everybody is involved. But if it's not 50-50 and it's 70-30, 60-40, whatever the circumstances may be, the custodial parent then becomes the parent that the kid spends the majority of the time with, right? Or typically we'll say like the one that the kid lives with, right? But what happens with our co-parents, if you're not the custodial parent, is that the co-parent misses out on time and special moments with their children because they're always with the custodial parent. And I tell people all the time, you know, it's unfortunate that like child support gets such a bad rap in the Black community. Child support is way more than finances, because I've seen people get $43 a month on child support. And we all know that that's going to buy a loaf of bread, a carton of eggs, and a gallon of milk, and maybe one pack of meat. It's not going to do much, right? However, what is keen when it comes to going to that court, especially if you have such a disgruntled co-parent who is unwilling to participate, who is unwilling to be flexible, who is unwilling to give up their ego for the sake of their children, right? One thing that we have to be mindful of is that court situations can also establish visitation rights, right? You got the kid every other holiday. I got the kid every other holiday. You got the kid every other weekend. I got the kid every other weekend. Or whatever the visitation plan is. See, we are stuck at the money. And the money don't buy happiness, and money can't take away the worry, the pain, the stress, the confusion. It just can't. Right? And no little amount of money or big amount of money can replace a parent. Honestly, it just cannot. So I want us to be mindful of that, especially when, you know, when we hear child support, people automatically think, oh, the person that went to child support was this or that. We need not get hung up on that, because child support is for the support of the kid, and it is more than financial contribution to the parenthood and to the parent-child relationship. Okay? You know what? Instagram, get y'all tonight, Facebook. All right, I see. So we have to be extremely mindful about this stuff and still keep our babies at the forefront. Also, parents who are the disadvantage to parallel parenting is that parents may not get the full picture of what's going on. Because if I'm raising the kid mostly, and then the kid is with me, and we have such conflict in our co-parenting relationship, how likely am I to call you to tell you about everything versus if you were laying right aside me or in the same household with me? Probably not. Because if you don't show enough interest, I don't want to feel like I'm burdening you with the issues of our child that you don't show up for anyway, right? And so we have to be very mindful of that. Though you may want to have your co-parent involved, they may not be interested. So then you are forced to leave them out. And again, that's one of those disadvantages. Because if your kid is at school and they're playing ball and they you know, happen to fall and fracture themselves, and the last thing you're thinking about is contacting your co-parent to let them know that your child is injured, that's unfair. And that's not okay for the child. You have to give them the opportunity to say, I don't want to be a part of it. Now, when someone is very adamant about, listen, That's your baby, because we've heard that. Let's be very clear. And when I say what I'm saying, I'm not being woman specific and I'm not being man specific. I'm being parent specific. Because you have single fathers, you have single mothers. You have fathers who are willing to step up, whether they with the mother or not, and then you have it vice versa. So everything that I'm speaking about today is parent specific. It is not gender specific. So it is really unfair to the co-parent unless they have told you, go on, quit calling me, I don't want nothing to do with that kid. Now, then, of course, you got to do what's in the best interest of your kid and keep it moving. And we ain't burden nobody with our stuff. I'm taking on these burdens. These are my children. These are my burdens. And sorry, ma'am, I'm going to do this without you. Right? Okay. We almost done with the disadvantages, y'all. Also, parents may need to explain boundaries to teachers, doctors, coaches, friends. And those things may look different. So now, not only are you enforcing or we enforcing all of this upon our kids, we are enforcing this on our family members who are really meant and there to support us in this co-parenting journey, right? I'm trying to preach, brother. So we have to be extremely, if we keep the kids as the denominator, the common denominator, and we pull our egos out and we pull our bitterness out and we pull our whatever is keeping us from fully pouring into our children, right? And then our kids will be better off. Okay. And then the final disadvantage to parallel parenting is that parents may not be able to resolve big decisions. We are a team. Whether you want to believe it or not, whether we are in a relationship or not, whether we live in the same household or not, whether we have moved on from one another or not, big decisions surrounding our children where two parents are involved, it means that two parents need to make the decision for the kid. One parent should not be left holding the heavy weight of making all of the decisions, big or small, on the behalf of the children. Because let me tell you what that does. What it does is it gives the non-custodial parent, it gives them the leverage if something goes wrong. Yeah, well, she made that decision. Yeah, well, if he had involved me. No parallel parenting. Like most of us don't know how to parallel park. So roommates, I need you guys to keep parallel parenting in your vocabulary. And if you ever forget about it, think about parallel parking. It's hard to do for many of us. And that is equally true when it comes to parallel parenting. Okay? All right. We're going to move on. Let's move on to cooperative co-parenting. Tell me what that may look like, roommates. Someone says child support enforcement officer was the most difficult job they ever worked. Oh my God. Sylvia, I can only imagine. Being there trying to mediate between two, but let me tell you, it can look either way. But I'm sure when that mediation was difficult and full of conflict, it had to be so disheartening. Because all we can think about, or all you can think about, is the babies that are involved in all of this conflict. Right? Okay. Hey, Tanya. Hey, Auntie. So let's talk about cooperative co-parenting. Cooperative co-parenting allows children to be children and adults to be parents. Okay? Some guidelines that we should follow when it comes to cooperative parenting, co-parenting, is that it teaches the parents how to establish a positive, cooperative, child-focused co-parent relationship. while shielding our children from any discord that exists between us. I'm going to take the high road anytime my kids are involved. Unless you are trying to do something that is going to hinder them or harm them. Now I'm in protective mode. Now I'm in mommy bear mode. But as long as we can come and be on one accord for the best interest of the child, it really should be easy like Sunday morning. What do you guys think? Tell me, what do you guys think? So, cooperative co-parenting can be easy, but Lord knows it can also be hard. And I'll actually just point out some of the easy, because I think parallel parking or parallel parenting just taught us a lot of disadvantages. So with cooperative co-parenting, I'm going to talk about some of the advantages of cooperative co-parenting. So, hey sister, thanks for joining. So when we are cooperatively co-parenting, we are keeping the children and the well-being of the children at the center of the parenting relationship. What could go wrong when it's simply like, oh, okay, yep, we do, okay, yep, no, that's fine, Even if a person tries to get off course, you reel them back in and you just say your kid's name. Oh, where you guys say y'all was going this weekend? Oh, what y'all got planned? Even if your co-parent tries to get off the beaten path, you reel them back in, excuse me. You reel them back in by simply keeping it child focused. Right? You respect each other's roles and boundary setting in the children's lives. That is so key, guys. That is so key. Respecting each other's roles and boundaries in the kid's life. A kid can't come home to me and tell me what they did and did again unless it's hurtful or harmful, where I am going to call that parent, that my co-parent, and go off or spaz out on them. I've had kids say, yeah, my daddy said such a so-and-so and did such a so-and-so and told me such a so-and-so, and I tell them, that sounds about right. That's what he should be doing. That's your father. He should be redirecting you. Yeah, it don't feel good. It doesn't feel good when I tell you some things. But I still tell you some things. So that cooperative co-parenting is happening even when the co-parent is not there. When the kid comes in and try to split, see, they only able to split you when you're in constant conflict. But when you on one accord, they can't pull that foolishness with you. Even with, I asked, can I go to such a so-and-so Saturday? But he didn't tell me. Well, you better, parents, co-parents, pick up the phone and say, hey, and Lil Mike just said that you told him he can go to this party on Friday, but I already told him he couldn't go. Did you actually tell him that? Or did he share with you that I told him he couldn't go? And in that, you boxing the kid out. Because we're going to need the kid to stay in the kid's place, and we're going to need the cooperation to be right here. Right? It's beneficial for our babies, right? Okay. And then, when co-parenting roles and responsibilities are concisely defined, there's no blurred lines. There's no blurred lines. Co-parenting can be difficult, but co-parenting does not have to be difficult. Right? Okay. So there's this licensed clinical practitioner, and her name is Jennifer Drager. And she talks about the 3 C's of parenting, not co-parenting, but the 3 C's of parenting. And she says that clear, concise, and consistent communication is complementary, and it gives strategies to the parents so that they can improve their relationships with their children, reduce frustrations that they may experience in the co-parenting relationship, and it leads to more effective parenting for the children who are involved. So mamas and daddies that's on this live tonight, and those of you who will futuristically watch, I need for you guys to understand the 3 C's of co-parenting. Clear, concise, consistent communication is complementary to the co-parenting relationship. Okay? Any questions? Any feedback? Hey, cousin. Love you. Hey, Wallace. Hey, Rashonda. Hi, roommates. We got some visitors, y'all. If they tell them if they want to stay, they can definitely become our roommates. Hey, y'all. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining. Okay, guys, we're winding down. Now we're going to talk about the dun-dun-dun-dun. And that is high conflict co-parenting. So, guys, conflicted co-parenting is when the parents have frequent conflicts and poor communication between each other. High conflict co-parenting occurs when the parents have separated or divorced, and they face persistent tension and hostility in their past relationship, and now it has bled over into their co-parenting relationship. I know we hear all the time, nobody wins when the family feuds. Nobody wins when the family feuds. Our babies look up to us. They expect guidance from us. They expect protection from us. They expect role models of us. They expect, in their little minds, no matter how old they get, they expect the fairy tale parents. And they wish for, and they yearn for the perfect set of parents, even if their parents are not together. So parents, many of us are grandparents or about to become grandparents. And even if your child, who, our generation of children that we had, and even us, even if they're not sitting next to you, send them to Rumor Has It on YouTube. Y'all go subscribe to Rumor Has It on YouTube. I put in my blood, sweat, and tears for y'all. I need y'all to go subscribe because I want to only go live on my Rumor Has It pages. But anyway, so we have to be very mindful about high conflict and how it affects our children. So another example of like high conflict co-parenting is when the parenting styles clash. The children get inconsistent messages from both parents. Again, that goes that confusion. They don't even know how to act, how to respond, how to behave when all of this is going on around them. So again, the children are affected. And the differences in parenting style causes an increase not only in the parenting relationship, but it causes conflict in the relationship between the parents and the child or the children that are involved. And then the high conflict becomes destructive. Kids can start to blame themselves when the confusion sets in and they just don't know where to turn or who to turn to, because it seems like the parents are constantly at each other's throat, they shut down. And then they will often blame themselves. And when I say blame themselves, I want to be very clear. I want you guys to understand that they will say things to themselves like, well, if I wasn't good enough for them to stay together, what am I good enough for? And we need our children to be and feel supported enough that they can come to one or both parents to say, listen, I'm really tired of y'all stuff. I need you for the reasons of needing you. I need you as I'm growing. I need you as I'm growing into my identity. I need you as this world is cruel against me. I need you when I'm trying to understand making life decisions. I don't want to have to go and choose one parent over the other. I need both my parents. And God forbid, again, we don't want them blaming themselves that if I'm not good enough that my parents didn't even stay together for the sake of me, then what am I good enough for? We don't ever want our babies to plant no type of negative seed in their heads, especially if we can control it. We have to motivate our children, and we have to be examples for our children. We can't tell our children to not go out here and wreak havoc in society and on the world and be nasty and mean and cruel to one another when they watch their parents be nasty, mean, and cruel to one another. And another thing that high conflict co-parenting does, and it sets the co-parenting relationship up for failure, is that it causes decisions to be mostly decided upon by one of the co-parents. Because if you guys can't come together for the sake of the kid, then somebody is left with making all of the decisions on behalf of the children. Or you got the kid in between. Well, are you going to do this? Are you going to show up for the physical? Are you going to sign for the passport? Because for those of you who don't know, and I'm not insinuating that you don't, but some people don't know this. When it's time for you to get your children passports, if your children are under the age of 16 years old, if both parents are alive and not in jail, if both parents are alive and one of them are not in jail, so of course, if one is deceased, you good. I hate to say it like that. Or if one is incarcerated, you're good. But if the kid is under the age of 16 and one of the parents is not deceased or one of the parents is not incarcerated, when you go to apply for your kid a passport, both parents have to fill out that application, be there, be sworn in on a sworn affidavit to get your kid a passport. And unlike adults, our passports are good for 10 years, starting at the age of 16. Between the ages of 16 and 18, if your kid goes and get a passport for the first time, they only need one parent. But if they're, and their passport lasts for 10 years. So the next time they get it, they'll be 26. They can do it on their own. Like us adults, when we go and do our stuff, we can do it on our own. We're grown. It lasts for 10 years. But for children under the ages of 16, their passport only lasts for 5 years. So every 5 years, you must go, you and your co-parent, to the passport people with your baby. Your baby has to be there with this application. And you have to do a sworn affidavit that this is your kid, that all of the information you just shared is true, that you're not going to flee the country with the baby. And you got to do that every 5 years. And if you're anything like me, my babies have had passports from the womb. So that means they get them at birth, and then we got to get them at 5, and then we got to get them at 10, and then we got to get them again at 15. And baby, if you are a co-parent who is in high conflict with your co-parent, that can cause an issue. Because now everybody got to sit everything aside and they got to show up together with this baby and stand in unison to agree that you want your child to have a passport and to explore the world with one or both parents. So I want you guys, if you don't know that, I want to give you that tidbit. Okay? Wonderful. We going to closing segment, y'all. We going to closing segment. Let's talk about signs of a bad co-parent. I need y'all to drop some jewels. What are signs of a bad co-parent? Hey, Breezy, love you. Hey, Miss Linda, thank you. Hey, sister. What are signs of a bad co-parent? We're going to breeze through this. Then I'm going to give us some healthy co-parenting tips. And I'll see y'all next week. Okay? Signs of a bad co-parent. Let me look. I'm looking on Facebook. I feel like I need to refresh my screen because I see comments coming up on my screen, but then again, some of the comments are not showing up. Okay? And then Instagram, let me see what we got. Okay. So, signs of a bad co-parent. Bad-mouthing your co-parent in front of or to your children. No, 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 no. That's a no-no. If you just got a bad-mouth them, call your best friend and make sure your kids ain't in earshot listening range. Call your friend. Go over to your auntie house. Don't do it to or in front of the children. Do not put a bad taste or a bad impression in a kid's mouth or ears about their co-parent. It's unfair. It's unfair. Shutting the other parent or your co-parent out of important information and details. Your co-parent should know what type of grades your kids got, even if you pick the grades up. Your co-parent should know that your kid just signed up for basketball. Your co-parent should know about medical appointments. Your co-parent should know about birthday parties, etc. Your co-parent should know about the things that is going on with their kids. They have a right to know. So when you don't give them that privilege, you are being a bad co-parent. Or if they don't give you the privilege, they are being a bad co-parent. Refusing to allow your children to interact with or spend time with the other co-parent. We just talked about this a moment ago. I don't care if y'all broke up. I don't care if y'all divorced. I don't care if y'all separated. I don't care if the person moved on with another man, another woman, a husband, a wife. It is not your place to intervene and stop your kid from seeing their parent because of issues that you guys may have, or because you yourself have not moved on. And moving on don't always mean moving on to another person. Just moving on out of the situation that once had y'all together that now leads y'all to a co-parenting situation. Right? And last but not least, refusing to participate in your children's activities and important events out of spite of your co-parent. I ain't going because she going to be there. I ain't going because he going to be there. Are you insane? Are we going to lose our mind and lose our relationship with our children out of spite of our co-parent? Nope. We going to show up and we going to show out as a parent in great full support of our children. And we're not going to let nothing or no one come in between that. Okay? Okay. All right. And last but not least, I got some healthy co-parenting tips. Have open communication with your co-parent. Let them know that they can talk to you about everything, and hopefully you can talk to them about anything as it pertains to your children. Don't let anything get in the way of you effectively and openly communicating with the person that has helped you put together some DNA and help you guys share a human being or a set of human beings on this earth. I promise you guys, I know that sometimes it's difficult. And I know that sometimes our co-parents are not willing. When a co-parent is not willing, you can wash your hands of that. But if a co-parent is willing, do not deprive them of that communication as it relates to their child or their children. Hey, Black, thank you for joining. Hey, little Reggie, love you. Do not deprive your children of a cohesive parent relationship out of spite of your co-parent. Communicate. You guys deserve to know what's going on with your children. I know the last thing I want to do is open up a newspaper and see that my daughter is, or my son is going to the finals as the top athlete in the state of Illinois. And I learned that by way of a news article, and my co-parent then didn't nudge me and let me know, hey, she doing well. Hey, he doing well. Hey, come to the basketball games. That is so unfair to your babies. Okay? Stay, be, remain flexible. It's not about you people. It's about your babies. It's about our children. Be flexible. Oh, you didn't come get them this weekend. It was your weekend. Come get them next. And even if you can't, we can figure it out. Let's figure it out. Let's be flexible. Let's not be so stern. Let's not draw these hard lines in the sand all of a sudden just to try to berate or minimize that person's, your co-parent's role in the parenting relationship. Okay? Put and keep your children first. Keep them first. If you keep them first, you'll never get to the conversation about y'all. Never. Because there ain't nothing to talk about when it comes to y'all. Oh, Phoenix did such and so and so. Cool. Wonderful. Oh, we need to go do such and so and so for Deuce. Fine. If it deviates, reel them back in. Just say the baby's name and they'll get the picture. Okay? Remain and maintain, attain and maintain respect towards one another. Ain't nothing worse than a kid having to look at their parents call each other all out their name in front of the kid. It ain't worth that. Even if you want to, wait until you can probably just get them on the phone. The kid is somewhere far away and you probably go on and tell them off. Don't do it in front of the kids. It's so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy. Seek support and or mediation. Sylvia talked about a moment ago being in like that child support system. And one thing that the child support system offers for many people who just joined is not just about the finances that is related to the child support. Child support is more than just finances, because sometimes one parent may make more than the other, and the custodial parent may not even get much because they themselves make good money. Right? So I don't want us to always get caught up on finances, but that mediation. Okay, let's sit down. What is going to work for you guys? What is going to be the best visitation plan? What holidays should the children spend with you all? And come to some agreed upon arrangements so that it is beneficial for the children and that you have those delineated, which is outlined, rules set forth for you guys when y'all couldn't come together as co-parents to figure it out yourself. So mediation is never bad. And mediation doesn't always have to be court enforced. Mediation can be your auntie sitting down with you and your uncle sitting down with you, and somebody coming together and say, hey, y'all need to get together for the sake of these children. Right? And last but not least, roommates, Avoid negativity when interacting with your co-parent. We should not be cussing, fussing, and fighting with our co-parents. We just shouldn't. You guys were once an item, or even if you were a one-night stand, you guys came together and procreated a life. And if it is determined that this life belongs to the both of you, you are both obligated and privileged to have as much say-so as the other parent. And as the kids would say, and that's on period. There's no big I's and little U's in co-parenting. When we don't come together as a family, I said it a moment ago, and I'll say it again before I close us out with our biblical reference that I referenced earlier. Nobody wins when the family feuds. I'm going to close us out with 1 Timothy 5:8, which reminds us that anyone who does not provide for his relative, especially his children and members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And what this means for us in layman's term is anyone who knowingly neglects his children are not of good faith. Roommates, I pray that this segment is beneficial to you all. When I study, I learn more about myself each and every time. I am not exempt from the things that I bring forth with you. I am thankful for wisdom and for growth. And I'm thankful to be used by God to be able to share the wisdom that has been bestowed upon me. Roommates, I thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your patience. I love you all. Good night, roommates.